Namaskar. Welcome to this session of Straight Drive Panorama. I am Sudhanshu Mani. Friends, science is valued by society because the application of scientific knowledge helps to satisfy many basic human needs and improve living standards. In the background of Atmanirbhar Bharat, which, as I keep saying, should not be merely about manufacturing in India, but about creation with ownership of technology. And a strong base for that needs an ecosystem to be built in India to encourage young minds to take to science and research and development. A truly modern progressive India has to be envisaged on a solid bedrock of scientific work and inquisition. And all that rhetoric would be just that, a lip service, unless our youth takes pride in studying the sciences. And we need role models to propel them, role models like C.V. Raman and Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, and so many others. So, viewers, to discuss about the status of sciences in India, today we have two redoubtable eminent Indian women of science on my panel today. Dr. Annapurni Subramaniam is a professor and director of Indian Institute of Astrophysics, Bangalore. She did her PhD on the topic Studies of Star Clusters and Stellar Evolution and works on areas like star clusters, stellar evolution, and population in galaxies and Magellanic Clouds. A well-known scientist and an active member of the International Astronomical Union. Welcome, Dr. Subramaniam.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be on your program.
Thank you. And we have Dr. Archana Sharma. You are perhaps familiar with her because she has been on my show earlier too. PhD in particle physics, DSc High Energy Physics, Executive MBA from International University, Geneva, the first Indian scientist at CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research, which is the European research center that operates the largest particle physics lab in the world. A pioneer in the field of radiation detectors, she also runs an NGO called Life Lab Education and Research Foundation to partner with educational institutes to help students, particularly underprivileged students and teachers, with great impact in India, with the 20,000 plus participants. Welcome, Dr. Archana.
Thank you.
So I have my first question to both of you. We will begin with you, Dr. Subramaniam. The question is about the spirit of Atmanirbhar Bharat from the prism of you leading big science in India and the other from abroad. I dare say that the story is not very encouraging in the field of engineering, which I'm familiar with. But let's talk about the sciences. What is the status of mega science projects in respect of self-reliance in India? Are the industries adequately and gainfully aligned with the big science that you are doing and going forward? How do you see collaboration and leadership at large projects like yours?
Yeah, that's a, let me answer that to begin the discussion. So
Sure.
That's a great question indeed. And it's very important to understand this at the present day because it's very, very relevant question which we need to ask ourselves. So from my experience in participating one of the mega science projects, which is the 30-meter telescope, which India has been participating for about 7-8 years. And we have been prior to that a few years in the pre-planning phase. It is important to understand that the mega science projects are mega because it requires expertise and participation from large countries as well as large set of people having different expertise. So India to be part of that, it basically says that India has the capability to be part of it. Okay, number one. Two, how can we contribute to this project? Are we at the level of international standards with the industry delivery? We are not yet there, but then we have ramped up the skill in the last 10 years or so. I think delivery to CERN and other projects are important, and then we have been ramping up to that scale. But when it comes to astronomy projects, the requirements are quite stringent. So we are looking at precisions which are probably not very seriously taken in terms of certain aspects. So we are trying to reach that aspect. But in the last 7-8 years, we have involved with various industries within the country, and many are qualified to produce, which are systems which are actually quite precise and accurate, which they have not done earlier. So this actually participation in mega projects not only brings in technology requirements, and also expertise within the country needs to be, I mean, it helps to develop new techniques, new way of measuring, new way of, even manufacturing or calibrating, etc. And also in systems engineering, how do you have a process starting from beginning to end so that you have an end-to-end system to get delivered within the schedule and cost to these projects. So we are growing, and things are looking better. And I believe that mega science projects are indeed helping towards the Atmanirbhar the team.
Thank you. So, Dr. Archana, the same question to you. Now, you, of course, have a good overview both of what's happening in India and also a view from abroad. So, Dr. Archana.
Thank you for the question. And I think Dr. Annapurni has answered it brilliantly. I will just add my perspective. I think industry in India is ready. Industry in India has fantastic quality. The job that we scientists have to do is to hold hands from the R&D stage with mega science. And this is already happening. We need to accelerate this, and we need to take example for it at CERN. If we look at the exports from Europe, 44% of exports are coming from physics. And this, if you relate it with a common man, you can see that any hospital, airports, railway stations, communications are all a result of science and technology and the research that has gone. We call them mega science or mega projects, but this is really physics, basic physics, starting from the STEM education in our schools. And in India, we know our dear Prime Minister Modi ji has set out a vision of the 5 trillion economy. And therefore, there is an urgency and importance for the role of mega science in India. And Atmanirbhar will follow naturally in the form of products, goods, services. We just need to ensure this move, this spiral should continue.
Okay, thank you. So coming to you, Dr. Subramaniam, once again, although you partly answered my question, which I'm going to ask you, but still coming to specific to your field. So please explain a little bit more how astronomy or astrophysics can be leveraged towards Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Yeah, thank you. So I will elaborate with a couple of examples, in the sense that previously you used to think that even the societal development, overall well-being is different, and whatever you do, science is different. So they were decoupled. But the idea what we propose, and also has been even introduced by the International Astronomical Union, is that you drive the development through science and do it with astronomy itself. So if you want to look at a ecology, or protection of environment, even the climatic change, etc., so you can drive it with a science team, rather than saying completely detaching these two completely different. So the theme being astronomy requires dark skies and also the environment to be preserved, not completely spoiled. So you drive even the whatever requirement you have through this. So you get to have the night sky and also see astronomy, do astrophotography, etc., but then actually do the systems in such a way that the society's thinking, the society's how you approach the environment, everything has to be from this point of view. That is point number one. Second, astronomy is something which you make you think out of the box. Some things which you cannot see terrestrially, like looking at you won't be thinking about a planet where life can exist outside the solar system, even within some remote part of the solar system. So those kind of thinking astronomy brings in. So certain ideas which you are completely confined within the existing framework which you see around, astronomy helps you to break those barriers and think beyond. So this way, astronomy particularly can help proceed further, and also proceed for thinking beyond what you can do within the framework.
Nicely put. So, Dr. Archana, you would have anticipated, I think, the same question to you. Particle physics and Atmanirbhar Bharat. Give us something on that.
Particle physics and Atmanirbhar Bharat. Okay. So, yes, particle physics in the end of the day is originating from STEM education. And I think what we need is to create a basis, a strong foundation, so that our students, like Dr. Subramanian also said, are interested and are curious to learn the relatedness between real life, everyday life, and what science teaches them. And particle physics, certainly, it looks esoteric. There is a mismatch between the values that are communicated in the class and what is the real contribution towards climate change, or towards this pandemic is showing us where the aspirations should be, which means contributing as a person to the society, to education, to industry, to the scientific and technological advancements in the country once our children turn into adults. So that relationship, the origin really lies in the classroom, and the manner in which these subjects are taught, which is very difficult, I must say. As a perception, it is very difficult. When I started learning physics, people told me, you are doing unclear physics, which was another name for nuclear, So, but, bit by bit, still I'm learning, and lots of things to learn, of course. But at least the contribution that I as a person can do to the society is related to the fact that I have studied particle physics, and before that I have been educated in STEM. And I think this knowledge and this understanding has to be injected in the classroom at a very early age.
Okay. Coming to you once again, Dr. Subramaniam. So, what is the importance of science communication in mega science projects, and what are the available opportunities for young generation in India today in these fields?
Yeah, that's a very, very nice question. And also one has to put in more importance into science communication these days. And I mean, the sense that as Professor Archana Sharma already pointed out, there is a mismatch. Like, there are scientists who do work, and society says, okay, they're doing something. The scientist says, okay, we are doing science. We don't know how to reach out to people, etc. This is a completely, we are not completely different set of people. We are part of the society. The society also is curious to know what we are doing. So it's very important to let people know. From within a family, I can tell you my experience. Like, if I want to spend more time in my research and I want to spend more time in my observatory, I need my people at home and my family understand that, look, I'm excited about certain thing, and understand until make them passionate, they immediately understand. Once I tell them that, oh, I'm looking at something object and I'm expecting this particular phenomena in that object, and they said, oh, okay, did you get it when I come back? That is the question when they ask me when I come back from observation. Similarly, this curiosity, this passion has to be transferred to people around you. They automatically come and ask you, okay, so what are you doing now? So unless and until you tell them what you did earlier, they won't ask you that question. So this communication is very important. And we are trying to tell the new generation as well as the old generation to talk to them freely. I mean, less jargons. You just tell them, open up your mind. What is making you passionate about it? That has to be transmitted. And that is the only way in which you can make the everybody around you know about what you're doing and let them also get passionate about science. And mega science project, there's a dire requirement because there is a lot of investment going on here. And though it is very niche area, but the how the society benefits about out of it, as well as what is exactly exciting about the whole project, has to be conveyed. So the entire society needs to know that yes, we want to do this. We are part of this mega science project and we want to do it. And why you want to do it? The reason, I know the reason, not like skeptical about it. So that is very important, I think. And for younger generation, there's a lot of opportunity because this mega science project is not just scientists. It requires a lot of engineers. It also requires lawyers because you're talking across nations. You have to have agreements. So all sorts of people are required. We need managers because bringing together a whole lot of people and schedules and costs, etc. We need managers. So all sorts of people are required. So a lot of exciting opportunities, challenging opportunities for the younger generation to come with respect to science projects.
Yeah. Okay. So, Dr. Archana, so one favorite question of mine, and I know something which is close to your heart, is how can one excite young minds to take up science? Of course, Dr. Annapurni has already talked about it, but how do you think one can excite these young people? Given the current scenario in India, I mean, there are a million things we need to improve, but given the current scenario, how can we make the best of what we have?
Thank you for this question, and I think it was wonderfully covered by Dr. Subramaniam. I would just add my 2 cents here, that children are curious from the very beginning. And in the primary school, particularly in the transition to secondary school, there is a lack of extracurricular activities. And this happens because A, of the large numbers in the classes, and B, because of the examination pressures. I think our students who are so curious and they come and ask questions every now and then to their parents, to their peers, or to their teachers, they stop asking those questions once they start getting this pressure of, having to go through competition exams or their own board examination and so on. And there is also, of course, a lack of resources if we think if we want to improve by adding these extracurricular activities. Now, that's the opportunity where my foundation is actually working and trying to make a difference by demonstrating this pipeline, so to speak, so that young students who are very curious can actually study and go to university and make R&D as a career. It's not looked up as an aspirational career to become a scientist yet in our country. Still, we have, the IITs, the engineering, the IIMs, and medicine, and so on. Those are like the aspirational careers. And I myself, I know that I was a failure because I was not selected in IIT. So things have changed dramatically from then to now. But our country is so huge. And it is our responsibility to really, trigger this switch. And this curiosity has to be converted into potential that we scientists and science communicators and you, Sudhanshu, are doing a great job in bringing this knowledge to the public. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for good words. And Dr. Subramaniam, a little instinctively, but inevitably, I must ask you as to how can more women be encouraged to take up sciences? And will it be right to positively discriminate in favor of female applicants when recruiting for senior positions? Maybe with some personal examples, if you will, Dr. Subramaniam.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very important topic to address. We need to increase more people, women in STEM. And I think there is a tendency for women to feel that maybe I may not be able to meet up to the expectations. And that has to be quenched in the very beginning.
Okay.
Because many people kind of think that that is the mentality which is put in by the society, that, the entire thing, that maybe you will not be able to succeed, as Dr. Sharma said, considered as a failure. So that fear is there in the mind, and you have to break it open. You can do it. So that, first of all, that has to be taken out. And second, I feel that all the people who are, when you evaluate the contributions or whatever the work done by women, you have to add, 30% extra to it, at least 30%, because the kind of work you need to do to get there, and there are hurdles in all the ways. And even in your own life, you need to look at your own, life is a package deal. So everybody has their own story about it. So extra 30% has to be there to allocate to the amount of time a male candidate and a female candidate. If you look at the if the male candidate has all the 100% of time available to do that bit of work, the female gets only about 70% to do that work. So that calibration is never done, and nobody talks about it. It's very important to address. I'm not talking about discounts on anything, but as such, the time available for a woman as such is small compared to a man. So that has to be factored in. So that is when I would, this is the statement I would make when someone has to hire and you have female applicants as well as male applicants. I hope I addressed this question.
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Sharma. So for want of some variety in my questions, I'll try to ask you something which is a little bit on personal level. So some quick questions. Given the sector's gender gap, how was your journey to this level of leadership? What is the most challenging aspect for a lady to fulfill her dreams in science and technology environment? And lastly, how will you communicate issues regarding gender diversity to people who do not, they may not be, they may be well-meaning, but people who do not understand the importance of, due to cultural background? Dr. Sharma.
Thank you for this loaded question, because it's many questions rolled into one. I think if you speak about my personal journey, first of all, it's ongoing, and it has been as challenging as every other woman who has been trying to go to senior levels, because we do know that there exists a glass ceiling, and women, like Dr. Subramanian said, have to not only do 30%, but I would even say they have to work double to be able to deliver that quality and that kind of commitment that a man can stand out and say, stop everything else, I'm working. That is easy. I'm sure you relate to that. A woman cannot do that. She has a child here and a mother here, and so on. And all said and done, those social duties need to be addressed as well. So having the support of your family, first of all, having the support, in my case, of my husband, my child, my in-law family also, given all our social norms, to be a bahu, a bhabhi and all that, all those things will be there as well. So I've been extremely supported by my family. I have to acknowledge that. Now, coming to how I have moved on is really that I have really stayed focused. That is my forte. I would say that I have ignored a lot of the negativity that comes along when you start moving up. Because when I'm not saying that I've moved up, but I've been moving a little further, so to speak. And here, it is very human. It's nobody's fault, that there will be people who will wonder, how is she moving up and why not me? This question will come to a woman and to a man who is my colleague. So there will always be a negativity that will come. So ignoring the negativity and ignoring the praise and the admiration, because that also, we need to keep our blinders, like a horse. We have to keep our blinders and just keep going. And personally, I have had the unbelievable opportunity of working at CERN. But of course, that's not alone, that you have an opportunity and you just, you think that you might just move ahead. You need the support, you need the advice, you need to build and empower people around you. That's how you can grow further as a senior, I would say. So you grow up as a team and you have to take your team along. So I always looked for advice and the input from other people. I engage other people, not only at CERN, but all of it in my whole network. I like to see that I move ahead with my team. So this, I think, has been my differentiation, if I can say so. Now, I think you mentioned the other question was about the challenging aspect for a lady. Okay, challenging, I think we have already spoken. These are the expectations from myself. Like Dr. Subramaniam said, that we should believe our own value. We do not believe that. I could not ask a question in a meeting, when I arrived at CERN, I always had a doubt. But then everybody else would say the same things. And then I would say, I also had the same thought. I'm sure you relate to that. And slowly, I overcame that kind of a doubt and an imposter syndrome, that of course, maybe I can also do it, So that kind of a growth takes a long time, and it's really important for supportive, let's say, peers. And it doesn't come overnight. It takes a long time. So again, at work also, I have had very supportive colleagues, and I cannot forget the day about 15 years ago when my boss told me, Archana, what is your dream? And I said, I want to build a new detector. And he said, do it. I couldn't believe it, that really, first that he believed that I could do it, and I could not believe myself that I could do it, And 15 years later, it's an incredible success for my whole experiment. And I'm so proud that I have been building careers of, hundreds, if not more, of students as I go along. So that belief from your colleagues is also important. And there was one last question you had. This was about how do you communicate issues to
people who don't
gender diversity?
I mean, they are well-meaning, but they don't really understand because of cultural background.
I think role models like Dr. Annapurni and others in our country are extremely important, along with family, along with the work they have done, along with the outreach that they do. And it's not about giving a lecture here and a lecture there, it's really crusading. And I think we have to be visible, we have to be crusading in every interaction and in every conversation. I think that the impact will come naturally.
Okay, good. So thank you, Dr. Subramaniam. Thank you, Dr. Archana, for joining this show today, taking out time to speak to our viewers. And I'm sure they will gain from your wisdom and enlightening discussion. And viewers, I hope you liked the program today. Specifically, the younger people who would be inspired to join the sciences in India. This is it for today. We will join next Thursday in Straight Drive once again. Namaskar.
Thank you.